Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sober.POP podcast, and I'm your host, Pop Buchanan. I'm extremely excited today to bring you our special guest, Alysse Bryson. Alysse B is a strong woman in recovery, an innovative media maven, marketing guru, and gal about town. She has a humorous outlook on life combined with a fierce determination to succeed. What's her street cred? Previously, Alysse was the publisher at Seattle Met Magazine, largest Seattle lifestyle publication. What she's up to now, currently serves as the director of business development for King 5 NBC, Seattle's largest TV station in the market. She also claims to be the director of fun. Alysse is a very active advocate for recovery. She just stepped off the board after 6 years from the Recovery Cafe and the Friends of the Recovery Cafe Network. She is now volunteering her time with the King County Recovery Coalition and the Washington Recovery Alliance. Hey, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay?
I can hear you. Yes, let's do a sound check. All right. Am I too loud or am I good?
You're good.
All right. Can you see me well?
Maybe I don't need my head. I think
whatever feels comfortable. I'm loud, man. I'm a project.
I'm loud too. I am like the loudest.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you. So I know you have a lot going on. And I really wanted to do this because I really wanted to learn more about you. But I also want to talk about 424 and stuff. And I think it was the right time to do this. So thank you so much. I just finished doing a podcast episode. And that's why I had to push ours to 8:15 my time, because I forgot that I had someone for 7 already.
You're so popular. Look at what I got on my notebook.
Oh, yeah, there we go. We in the house. Yes. This is my Prayer is Dope shirt. We have the Prayer is Dope. So
I like that.
Yeah, it's not too.
Is that a lavender or a gray?
This is a gray shirt with like a lavender print.
Yeah, I like it.
Right.
I like it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So how are you feeling today?
You know, I'm actually feeling pretty okay.
That's good. So we have Alysse Bryson on the Sober.POP podcast. Welcome here today. And I just want to say thank you so much for all of your hard work and contributions to the recovery community. Alysse, you touched me deeply. Like when I first started, I was just doing the Sober.POP podcast and I was really gung-ho. I didn't really connect with too many people, but you was always a warm person in my corner. You was always there. I always thought you was fascinating. And I just want to thank you for being kind to everyone in the recovery community and doing all of the hard work that you have going on.
Yeah, it's just, in the last year being in a lockdown pandemic situation, I really had to take a look at like being of service is who I am. Like that's who I am to my core. It's not who I always was, but it is who I am today. And so in the last year it was like, how can I continue to be of service? But from right here in this little box and from behind my screen. So I'm not a person who had done a lot of recovering out loud on the internet. Right. My sobriety date's 5/1/2006. So, I've been at this thing for a little bit now. And for the first 10 years, like anyone in my life on a personal, like day-to-day in my life physically, I never shy away from talking about my recovery and what it was like and what happened and what it's like now, right? I was never shied away from that, but it was not something I ever put out on the internet. And like, I can even remember celebrating birthdays or anniversaries, whatever you want to call them. Right. And like for my 5th birthday, I was like, I'm celebrating my Chanel number 5. I always put out like these cryptic messages that if you knew me well, you would know what that is. But in the last year, I've seen this movement of people recovering out loud really start to swell. Yeah. And I had to be a part of it.
Right. And I'm glad you are, because just your presence and testimony, and look, you have a lot of years. 15 years is nothing to sneeze at, right?
Almost.
What's the trick?
What's the trick? Well, I am very much a one day at a time girl.
Okay.
And if you had told me, nearly 15 years ago, hey, Alysse, if you do these things, You never have to drink again, and you'll get all this time, and you'll get all these amazing things will happen in your life.
Right.
I would have, no, not this girl. You know, I lie, I cheat, I steal. I'm not a person of my word. That's who I was. And,
right.
but doing this thing one day at a time really simplified it. Right. And then, for me, it's really, being reliant on a higher power, which I choose to call God, and being plugged into the recovery community, and being of service to others and helping once I had some people show me the way that worked for them, and I started to mimic and fake that until it became my own. And then I started helping other women, with their addiction issues. Like, there's nothing more incredible than seeing a mother like get her kids back or excel in her career, like, it's just, that's the best. I didn't realize that was going to be the best part. I thought me getting sober was going to be the best part, but really helping other people, reach their full potential is what really does it for me.
I love it. I love it. Do you feel comfortable in telling us a little bit of your personal origin story and how did your recovery journey and how it started? Maybe what was your drug of choice and what got you to this point?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in I grew up in a Christian home. Both my grandfathers were pastors. I went to a private Christian school. I was at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. And because because part of the school was at the church and my mom was a teacher at the school, I was basically at the church every day. And so I grew up in a middle class, lovely home. My parents are still married to this day. They still live in my childhood home, in this small town that's about halfway between Seattle and Portland. But at 16 and coming out of a private Christian school and being put into a public high school, it was like, oh my goodness, I wanted to be one of the cool kids, right? I wanted so badly to be one of the cool kids. And I was told all these things like, thou shalt not. But then there was all these other things that I was like, well, no one told me I couldn't ever do this. And so I really started experimenting with alcohol and drugs. And I was blacking out within the first month or two of drinking. Like, I have always had like basically an allergic reaction to alcohol.
Right.
When I start, I can't stop. And then, other drugs were introduced. Marijuana came onto the scene, mushrooms, ecstasy. And then because I was such a blackout girl, cocaine would help me be able to drink more. So my drug of choice is absolutely alcohol, because that is the one that when I start, I can't stop. And that is the one when I'm doing that, then I want to introduce all the other things.
Correct. Right.
And growing up in a small town, if you couldn't get cocaine, then methamphetamines was kind of like the next logical step.
Correct.
And man, that's a dirty drug. Like that that can really, those were not good times. But somehow I managed to kind of like bump along the bottom. I got pregnant with my son at 20, dropped out of college, moved back home after I had him. When he was like 2 months old, I moved back home. Never got married to his father. And I just took a year off and like played stay-at-home mom. So I scrapbooked and I worked out to like some MTV workout video that I thought was really dope. Right. And it came to a point, my parents were like, okay, you need to go back and get a job, and you need to provide for yourself and your kid. And so, but for that 1 year and for my pregnancy, I really didn't drink or do any drugs. And, but the moment that I picked back up, it was as if it had progressed. The disease had progressed, even though I wasn't drinking. And it was actually worse than when I had stopped. And so throughout my 20s, I became really good at compartmentalizing things and keeping things all in their separate places. And so I could be the PTA mom at the private Christian school where now my son was going to, but I also was like sleeping with everybody at the downtown dive bar. Right. So it was like, keep all the people separate and nobody will know, what I'm really up to. And I got lots of bad things happen, lots of scrapes that my parents got me out of, lots of things that you would have thought, would have been more than enough reason to give it up. Lots of trauma, lots of sexual abuse, domestic violent type situations. And at 30, I woke up one day and I was just like, I can't stay in this small town anymore. I had really burned through. I was starting to really burn a lot of bridges. And, you know, I was a lot of fun until I wasn't. And even my closest friends were just like, you know, they weren't into it anymore. And at the time I had fallen into a job in advertising at a small newspaper in my hometown. And so I woke up this one day and I was just like, I can't be here anymore. I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm going to get a job at the Seattle Times. I'm going to put my life back together. And 30 days later, I had a job at the Seattle Times and I was living in Seattle. Cause you know, addicts, we love a clean slate. We love the idea of a fresh start or a do-over. And sorry, God, I always realize how much I wave my hands when I'm on camera. I'm like, and so here I was, like, I moved close to his dad and his stepmom so that I could have some support for my son. And at that point, he had a half brother and I wanted, you know, them to be close to each other. But so then I was like, alone. And that's when my drinking at home alone really took off, because up until that point, I was just a club girl. Like I clubbed Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Right. And then I dive barred like Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. But my drinking home alone really took off. And so, but miraculously, I was carpooling with this woman that I worked with. And at the time, I didn't really care for her. But if we carpooled together, we would get free parking downtown Seattle, which was, you know, saving some scratch, right?
Right.
So we started carpooling together, and over those months, I would either be hungover or still drunk, or, you know, all the sob stories. And I started just kind of pouring my heart out to this woman, and she was sober and she was in 12-step, and she just kept saying, yeah, I know what that's like. And if you ever want to do something differently, you know, just let me know. She never forced it on me. She never told me I needed to stop. She never called me an alcoholic. She was just like, yeah, sounds familiar. If you ever want to do it, anything different, just let me know.
Right.
And so eventually that Saturday morning came when I had been up all night. I was drunk. I was coked out of my mind. I called my sister and I was just sobbing. And she was like, well, why don't you call an 800 number? And I did that, and they wanted me to dump out all my alcohol. And I was like, well, that's wasteful. Like, I'm not going to do that. And keep in mind, at the time, I wasn't even recycling. Okay. So it's not like I'm like Miss Sustainability.
Yeah.
And so I called my sister back. I'm like, they're crazy. They want me to dump out my alcohol. I'm not doing that.
Wow.
So then she was like, well, what about the carpool lady? And I was like, yeah, what about the carpool lady, you know?
Right.
So I called my friend, and she took me to my first 12-step meeting, and I hated it. I hated it so much. I still remember what I was wearing, this turquoise terry cloth, like leisure, like juicy couture top and bottom. I looked like a Crayola color crayon, you know, I did not blend in. And I went in, and all I saw was the differences. I didn't see the similarities. And so I was like, well, that's not for me. So now what do I do? And so I started kind of going to different therapists, and I got evaluated at a couple of treatment centers that were local here in Seattle, and finally ended up at this women's treatment center. And on that particular, like, inpatient consultation, whatever you call it, it was the first time, for whatever reason, I just stopped lying and I just answered every question honestly. And because I was just really looking for someone to tell me how to drink like a normal person. Like, isn't there a pill you can give me for that? Right. You know? So the woman strongly recommended inpatient. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm a career girl. I'm a single mom. And at the time I was like salesperson of the year. Even though I was at my bottom, like I was still accelerating in my career. It was really strange. And I just kept arguing with her, like, I can't go away for 28 days. I'm not Sandra Bullock. I can't do it, you know? And she was like, well, what about outpatient? And so I was like, I could do that, but it'll have to be in a month, because I need my son to be on summer break, and I can send him to my parents, and then I can work, and then I can do treatment in the evening. Because, you know, here I am still trying to control everything.
Right.
I'm very type A. And so she was like, okay, what are you going to do between now and then not to drink? And I was just like, I don't know. She's like, well, what about AA? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I went to one of those, not for me. She's like, well, can you control your drinking? And I was just like, oh, that's it. Duh! Why didn't I ever think of that? That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to control it. I'll see you in a month.
Yeah.
And so for a couple of weeks, I tried controlled drinking, and yeah, that doesn't work for me. And if miraculously I could keep it under 3 drinks, I was miserable, but I usually couldn't.
Yeah.
And so the same lady had told me that there was a 12-step meeting at this treatment facility that was all women, and that it was mainly for the people that were inpatient, but a lot of people who had gone through the program would come back, and it was outsiders could come in. And if things got bad, maybe I should go and check that out. So I said, okay, I'll file that one away. And so sure enough, nearly 15 years ago, I showed up at that treatment center on a Tuesday night, and I walked in and I looked around the room and I was like, okay, all right. These seem like chicks I would probably hang out with at the bar. Like, I've seen some of these girls, I think, at the club. Like, okay, there's some moms here. Okay, you know. And I sat as close to the door as I could, and didn't make eye contact with anyone. Just kind of staring at my feet. And I just asked God to open up my ears. Just open up my ears. Nice. And that night, every single woman that spoke had my story to a T, like exact. And in fact, I was like, oh my gosh, are we sleeping with the same people? Like, maybe, I don't know. And I was so overwhelmed because I was like, these are my people, and I am an alcoholic. And instead of saying it at like jokingly and like as a badge of honor, I was saying it like, no, really, you know? Right. And so I was driving home, and I was so mad at God. I was just like, you know, I don't have a lot. I'm a single mom. At the time, I was living paycheck to paycheck, you know, and I was just like, really, you're going to take away vodka too? It's like all I have, you know? And I'm driving and I'm mad at God, shaking my fist. And I was like, you know what, big guy, if this is really it, then you need to give me one more sign. Just give me one more sign, and then I swear I'm done. I mean, here I am negotiating with God, right? Who I'm sure is laughing his ass off at me because he's just like, this girl, like, what, this girl, how many signs do I have to give this girl? Right. And so, but here I am driving down the freeway, shaking my fist, screaming in my car like a crazy person, give me a sign, give me a sign. And this ding goes off in my car. Wow. And I look down, and in the dash, it says perform service. At the exact moment, right? That's cool. And I'm just like, holy shit, God is in my dash. Yeah. And I had to pull over to the side of the freeway, and I just broke. I just surrendered. For me, that was my burning bush experience. I just was like, okay, here I was demanding a sign. You gave me one. I'm done. I'm out of ideas. I will do whatever you want me to do. Even if I don't like it, I'm done. And as I'm sitting there and trying to like wipe the snot off my face, and I'm laughing because I'm just like, man, God has got his hands full with me. I looked back down in the dash, and it perform service wasn't there anymore, and it showed my gas tank, and I had a little less than a quarter of a tank of gas. And in that moment, as if there was a real person sitting in the passenger seat, this is how clearly of a voice I heard. You can do this now, because the next time I come for you, you will be on complete empty.
Wow.
Right?
Amazing. Fascinating.
And so by the grace of God, I have not had a drink since that night. Right. And it's not because I haven't wanted to. It's not because it was like rainbows and butterflies. Shit, the first 5 years of recovery is hard, you know? But what I did at that point is I threw myself into 12-step. I got a sponsor. I did the outpatient treatment. I poured my heart into those exercises. I gave it my all. And I'm the kind of girl that, like, when I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 150% because I don't know how to. I'm either don't do it at all or overdo it, you know? Right. And so for those first several years, like, I learned the buzzwords, and I learned all the ways to make people laugh and cry in the meetings. And like, I put a cover on my book because only serious people in recovery put a cover on their book. And, you know, I did a lot of faking it because I'm really good at the jazz hands game. I'm in advertising. I'm a salesperson. I can't help myself. Right. And then I hit this point around 4 or 5 years in sobriety where I didn't want to drink. I just didn't want to live. I just didn't want to live.
Right.
And what had happened is the only thing that had really changed is I had removed the drugs and alcohol, but all of my behavior really hadn't changed. Right. And so that's when I really threw myself into a program of rigorous honesty and did a bunch of things that other people told me to do. And I just really finally let it all go. And then it was after that, it was finally at that point that the obsession for alcohol was removed. Up until that point, I was really just kind of like white knuckling it.
Right.
But then the obsession got the remove, and then I started throwing myself into helping others. And then it was like Disneyland. Like if there is a sober Disneyland, helping other people is it, you know?
Right.
And so then, and around 10, and my career took off. I started running Seattle's largest lifestyle publication, which is crazy.
Right.
Cause I'm, I dropped out of college. Like, I don't, I'm just a girl with street smarts. And my life just got really big and really great, really fast. But I always knew I had to keep putting my recovery first, because without that, I wouldn't keep anything that I was getting,
Right.
And I've been through some hard things. I had emergency heart surgery at the age of 40. I thought I was having panic attacks, and it turned out that my left artery, which is nicknamed the Widowmaker, was 95% blocked due to long-term, due to drugs and alcohol. And I had transferred my alcoholism into workaholism, and because I was burning the midnight oil, I was single mom and working 80 to 100 hours a week. I was going to every party in town. I was just networking my ass off. It was great for my career, but it was bad for my heart. And so I ended up with emergency heart surgery. And in the same week, my son, who is 24 now, but was 18 at the time, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And he got really, really sick. He's 6 foot and he was down to like 120 pounds. He looked like Skeletor. And then about a month after that, I tripped after a yoga class because I was wearing Birkenstocks, and I got a concussion, and I had short-term memory loss. And then my son had to have this major operation, and he was in the hospital for a week. And then we got home, and 2 days later, our 4-year-old dog died because he choked on a squeaker. And Pop, like, the dog dying was it for me.
That was it.
That was it. I could handle the heart surgery.
Right.
I could handle the Crohn's. I could even handle a little concussion. But you took my dog, like, I just like, rah, And so I cashed in all my vacation time, which I had a shit ton of, and took 6 weeks off, and was like, I gotta reset. I gotta figure out I don't know what I have to do. And during those 6 weeks, God made it really clear. He's like, you're not going back to that job.
Right.
And I was like, but my ego, my personality, it's all wrapped up in that job. What do you mean I'm not going back to that job? Like, what else am I going to do? He's like, you're going to chill,
Right.
And I didn't go back to that job, and took a year off, and really just worked on myself, and worked with my son on his stuff. And we got another dog, and then that dog was so crazy, we had to get a dog for the dog. But like, what that showed me is like the really hard things that you always think, well, if this happens, I'm going to drink. Like, if this happens,
right,
this is my freebie, right? This is my out. And, but I didn't have to drink through those things. And that's really a miracle. It's just really a miracle.
Oh my God. That's a lot. And I thank you, because what you just did was you showed everyone out there that there's a lot of similarities with our addictions, but there's also a blueprint, right? And your story is absolutely fascinating. I wanted to ask you, that little moment where you was a little suicidal and recovery was just hard, that 5-year mark, was there any underlying mental health issues that wasn't being addressed? Was it a mental health aspect that was alongside of this addiction? any depression, anxiety, anything like that. Because a lot of us in the communities, we go through all of this and we miss that one X factor. Like we go to the meetings, we deal with the addiction, but we never address maybe the trauma, the depression, the sadness. So I just wanted to see if there was anything there that you had to address to help you on your successful journey.
Absolutely. I was told kind of early on by some old timers in the room that if you just work this program, you won't need it'll solve all your things. And maybe for some people it does, but for me, I definitely needed outside help. And the wake up call for me is up here in Seattle. We have a lot of ferries as a way of getting around to different islands and whatnot. And I was on a sales call and had taken a ferry over to see a client. And I was like on the third day of like, I just could not stop crying. Just the tears were falling out of my face. And I just kept telling people, oh, it's allergies. It's my contacts. I'm fine. Don't mind me. I was coming back from that meeting and I just missed the ferry. I was the cutoff. And so that put me in the very front line for the next ferry. So I'm sitting there and I'm crying. And this thought comes into my head that when the next ferry pulls up and everybody exits, I can drive on and then I can just keep going and like Thelma and Louise it and just drive off the other end.
Yeah.
And I actually thought I was going to do it. And like, I felt like I could not control that thought at all. Right. And I was terrified that I was going to do it. And so I called someone and she stayed on the phone with me. And then as soon as I got to the other side and got off the ferry, I immediately drove myself to the emergency room because I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And that was, it was a really unpleasant experience. And I was still very much in my workaholism. So even as I'm like in the emergency room waiting to be seen, I'm on my phone, sending work emails, like refusing to stop and acknowledge like something really big is happening. And so a lot of questions, and they were, they wanted to know, like, did I want to go away? Did I need some time? And I was like, I think I want to go see my primary care and then decide and have him tell me what to do. And so ultimately for me, I did have, I got evaluated and I needed to get on antidepressants. And I was really resistant to that. Because I just felt like I didn't want to be reliant on it. I felt like there was a stigma around it. And what did that mean about me? And, but in getting on those meds, it really did. And following them exactly how that's the funny thing about medication. Yeah. If it's prescribed by someone who knows what they're doing and you follow the directions exactly how it's prescribed, it actually works. Right. Weird. Right. And that worked for a while. And I got into therapy because I do have a lot of trauma and PTSD from things from over the years that had never been dealt with, that really did need a professional to help talk me through. Correct. And in some ways I feel like I'm still in that. Like I'm not done there yet. I don't know if I'll ever be done. It's kind of like an onion, like peeling off the layers. And it's like, the deeper I go, the more that comes out. And in the last year, I've been, there's been a lot of stuff from childhood bubbling up that like, I'm like, where is this coming from? But, and I've had to have my medications tweaked a couple different times. I definitely, I can go through little bouts of mania where I'm just like, really just like obsessively can't stop doing things and not sleeping well and not doing self-care. But I have enough bumpers in my life now and accountability people. My medical charts are like covered with everything. And I have people that'll call randomly and just ask me, did you take your pills today? Because sometimes I won't take them. I don't know why, and it's a self-sabotage thing. It's like, and my commitment in asking my accountability partners is that my promise to them is I won't lie to you. Yes. So if you call and I am not taking them, I'm going to tell you the truth. And that's worked for me. It's worked for me really well to have those. And I've never once had a resentment when they've called and done what I've asked them to do. And there's, it's surprising how many people, when you ask for help, they want to help you, and whether they know you or not, they want to help. And so Yeah, I do deal with some outside issues. And I probably will for the unforeseeable future.
Hey, well, thank you for sharing that, because that's the thing. There is a stigma there, and there's nothing absolutely wrong with using pharmacotherapy. It just actually helps with your neurotransmitter hormones to just regulate to help you get into a better mood. The thing that people don't understand, and this is what we talk about a lot on Sober is Dope, is that when we go through these repeated traumas, whether it's loss, it could be the loss of the dog, it's grief, the abuse, the things that happen that we don't remember in our addiction, those blackout moments, the people that took advantage of us, those stuff get compounded and they get stashed away somewhere in your subconscious. And you tend to keep replaying these things, and it's real trauma. And if you don't address it, no matter how much you try to avoid these drinking or the addiction, one bad thing could come into your life, and the next thing you know, you explode. So it's a twofold thing. We talk about comorbidity or comorbid addiction, which means that you could have a dual diagnosis, means your addiction is either fueled by the mental health or the mental health is fueled by addiction, or they're co-occurring together. And in my case, when I first met with my addiction counselor, they was like, I was incoherent. I was speaking so fast. It was like you were speaking so fast, no one could understand what you were saying. You were so excited that people would listen to you. You was bouncing off the walls. And they said you'll change because that's part of your trauma and part of your addiction. Months later, I was with them and I was just talking normally, and it was like, "Hey, everybody, come here, look at this. You remember this guy, right?" And I didn't even remember what they were talking about. There's like, you was incapable of speaking properly for the first week. The thing was, I had to go in to see a therapist, and I had to go take Wellbutrin, which was, they were saying to me, they was like, "You don't realize it, but you're so sad that you seem normal. Like, you'll come into a room, you'll talk to people, but they was like, if normal people are here, you're all the way down here. And we want you to take this so it could bring your serotonin levels up to a healthy level, at least so you could kind of be in the middle range where people's at." So I was like, I'm walking around sad all the time and don't know it. And those are the type of things that we have to uncover and kind of talk about to help people, right? And there is an end game. I mean, like, through time, it took time for me, right? It took about 5 years for me. I was on a medication for a year. Then I started meditating, started using prayer, started using exercising, started cutting people out. Like, I will only deal with people in my life that was really manageable. I realized I get anxiety really fast. If I think or stay in the future, if I put anything in the future or think about anything obsessively, I get totally anxious. So I just have to really learn myself, love myself. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because you're courageous in doing that, right? And sticking with the medication. Most people just you can open up a drawer and they have just the bottles piled up. They don't really take them. And it takes a lot to talk about it, because, this is Sober is Dope, and people always think they're not going to talk about mental health. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. What's up with your trauma? What's up with that trauma? Let's talk about that. What's up with the mental health, right? Because if we we shove all this stuff under the rug, eventually we'll get in trouble down the line. And part of my success in recovery is just being courageous enough to talk about all of these things and deal with it. And I just really wanted to thank you, because you touched on a lot. Because I remember when you said, the dog dying, right? Then you hit the state where you kind of don't know why you want to hurt yourself, but it's like, I just don't want to deal with all of this stuff all the time, right? That heavy load. So how are you doing now? How are you doing today?
I mean, not great, right? I mean, not great. I've been sobbing my face off since Sunday. I found out that I'm COVID positive, and my son and I are high risk, because of the heart. And I also have COPD and asthma from all the years of smoking. And I'm also a cancer survivor. I had stage 1 cancer 2 years ago on my ankle. Like, who gets cancer on their ankle? Right. Me. But I did used to be kind of a sun worshiper. And so, the last year I've lived in a lot of paranoia about this pandemic, and been like, it's like I've got holsters for my hand sanitizer and all the masks, and like, we go nowhere, and I've been really careful, and unfortunately not careful enough. And and fortunately we did have one of the 2 vaccines already. And what I'm being told is that it's actually it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And it's really helping fight off, symptoms. So right now my symptoms are very mild. And I'm so incredibly grateful for that. And I wish I could tell you that I can just stay in that gratitude and be like, everything's going to be great. But inside, I just go to extreme places, and fear is such a thing. And like last night, as I was walking my dogs, I'm just uncontrollably sobbing. And then I'm just like, why do I do this? Why do I go like I go to fear when it's just like, God's got it. God's got it. God's got the plan, and it's okay. And I'm going to be okay. But there have been a lot of tears this week. And so that's hard. But I have a support system, and I'm talking to people about it, and it's not anything I have to drink over. And it's just like, and I have, things that I do that it keep myself entertained. I love taking pictures. I love looking through my old pictures. I'm artistic, not in a good way, but I like to color and draw and paint and craft and just do things to kind of like that bring me joy. And you mentioned meditation. I have the Oculus virtual reality.
Yes.
And there's a lot of really cool meditation games on there. And there's also like a National Geographic app. And so like, I'll go on and I'll go to this beach because I'm a Cancer sign. I love water. It's probably why I love the Pacific Northwest, right? If I'm around water, I feel at peace. I live on a lake. And so I'll put on the mask and I'll go to this tropical, beautiful beach with the clear blue water, right? And this sounds stupid because I'm in my living room, but I've got the fan going on me, and I put my flip-flops on, and I get a nice little cold beverage. I put the mask on, and then I just do some deep breathing and just pretend that I'm at this beach and just bring it back center. And then I'm okay, and then I'm okay. So it's so cool that there are so many things available now, tools to help us. That I have a couple other meditation apps that work really well for me. And so that's how you just, and I have to just know that like, feelings are, when they're uncomfortable or when they're amazing, it doesn't matter. They're only temporary, right? And sometimes when they pass, they're uncomfortable like gas. I don't know a better way to say it. But they're not constant, right? They do change. I'm not going to feel this way forever. And I understand that now, and I know it from experience. And so, so today I just have to get through today, and then it'll be okay.
And that's a beautiful thing. A couple of things. You're healing so well that so I just read this article, right? And I'm gonna send it to you. They said that when you're tearing up like that, it's actually healthy for you because it's emotional tears transforms the mind and body in a specific way. It really touched me because some people are so disconnected. But the other thing is, you're no longer numbing yourself, right? Through your recovery, you're getting all of this stuff out, and that's a purging because it shows that you care. You're sending a notice to the universe that, I'm dealing with this stuff. It's tough. I don't want to be doing this. I want to feel well. I want to be healthy. And it's like, it's not always fear. Sometimes it's just extreme caution, extreme concern, extreme connection, and love for self. And that is a form of self-care. And just as long as you're not alone, but the point I'm trying to make is we live to fight another day. And I'm extremely proud of you for your courage, because you just even talking about it, some days I feel so callous and so numb. I wish I could cry, right? Because I'm still disconnected from a lot of that in myself. Like, I'm like, come on, man. Like something terrible happened. It's almost, I feel sociopathic because I look at it and I have no real emotion about it. And I got to get back to a point where I could be emotional and like feel again, right? So you're feeling, and in that process, you're healing. And I know you're going to get through this because I'm praying for you. We all praying for you. And I just want to say this, don't look at all of the other stuff, the other symptoms like the kids, the heart and all of that. Just know you're going to be all right. Put it in God's hand. And when you're afraid, that's fine too. That's not saying to God you don't have faith. That's just saying to God, like, I have faith in you. I just love myself enough to feel this. Like, I'm going through this. And thank you for your courage with that, because look, we go through stuff, but we're not alone. Now, imagine if you had to go through all this and you was using. Oh my
No,
God.
oh, I would be that. No, that would be a disaster.
Right, right.
Such a disaster.
So God is good, man. God is good. So Alysse, you did all of this. So within the 10 years, we're gonna wrap like this. You went from your 20s to your 30s. You moved from where you were to Seattle. You wound up becoming this innovative media maven, a marketing guru. You worked at the Seattle Met, right? That didn't work. Then you wound up becoming a director of business development for King 5 NBC, right? On
Yeah.
top of that, you was on the board for 6 years at Recovery Cafe, right? Friends of the Recovery Cafe Network. And now you volunteer for King County Recovery Coalition. So
Yeah.
look at that, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a testament of what choosing yourself in recovery looks like, right? Yeah. And so with all of this success and stuff, what's on the table for you now? And could you please tell us about this amazing campaign you have coming up for 424?
I would love to. So last summer I started the Sober Curator, in part because I am a media gal that loves curating content. I obsess over content, TV shows, movies, books, podcasts, merchandise. I love it all. And especially when it surrounds recovery. And so I started the sobercurator.com, which is like a lifestyle blog that is just, I don't know if this sounds too ambitious, but I want it to be like a Vanity Fair meets Rolling Stone for sober people.
Right.
Because I wanted it for myself. And so I actually don't care if people like it or not. I'm building something that I love. And if I'm the only one that reads it, fine by me. But
Right.
as it turns out, people are liking it. And what's happening is I've made all these relationships with all these people in sobriety, such as yourself, across the country, in other countries. And we're like, oh, I like what you're doing. What you're doing works with what I'm doing. Let's join forces. And it's just like all these little allies have been made. And so I've collected this posse of like dope, sober people.
Right.
And these gals in Canada from Seek Purpose podcast, Brooke and Suzanne, they had started this campaign last year called Just 424. And the idea was they were going to do kind of this pop-up event and encourage people to celebrate. It was a day of celebrating recovery, and people that are in recovery, they're sober all the time, but their loved ones, they could come in and be allies and just stay sober for the day and to do fun things. Because I think people assume that when you remove drugs and alcohol from your life, like suddenly they think we get like boring or something,
Right.
which is like such a conundrum to me, because it's just like I've never had more fun.
Right.
Than being sober. And so they tried to do this event last year and the timing was just off, right? COVID came. That's all that was on the news. Obviously no events. So they took it virtual. They did a Facebook Live. They had a little bit of momentum going. And so then a couple months ago, earlier at this year, they started talking about, oh, we did this event last year. It was like this. And I'm a gal that throws some of Seattle's biggest parties. I've been throwing parties in this town for 10 years. Right. And I was like, well, I can help with that. Are you guys going to do it again? Why don't we do it again? Let's do it again. And so Just for 24 is coming up this Saturday. It's April 24th. And we're just asking the recovery community to take to their social media feeds and recover out loud by showing some fun thing that you're doing. It can be anything, right? Think of it like the ice bucket challenge, but we're not asking you to dump ice on your head unless that's fun for you, then do that. Right. But we're trying to go viral. We're trying to show the world that a life in recovery does not mean that it's boring. You can still have so much fun. And that could be anything could be fun. You could make a fort in your living room with your kids and that could be a blast. You could bake cookies. You could go for a run. You could show off a new pair of dope socks that you get. I don't really care. Right. We just want to show the world how much fun you can have. And there will be a Facebook Live. You're going to be on it, right, and I'm going to be on it from 1 o'clock to 4:30 Pacific time. So adjust accordingly wherever you're at. A ton of different people in recovery are going to be coming on in like 15-minute increments to talk about their journey, their recovery, and get people pumped up about the fun things they're doing. There's a ton of prizes. Like I couldn't even tell you what they are. There's so many of them. Right. And what we're hoping is that this becomes an annual thing that every year on April 24th, forth. The recovery community knows around the world, this is our day to celebrate. And as it grows, and I believe it will, and what we'll see in next year and the years after, and when we're on the other side of a pandemic, is that people in individual markets, and in your city, in my city, we can organize these pop-up parties that it could be a blast, like sober carnival type things, sober Coachella. I don't know. It could be anything.
I love
Sky's
that.
the limit, right? Especially if we're sober, because we got so much energy. So that's what we're doing. There's a whole bunch of us doing it, and on Instagram and TikTok is where I'm seeing most of it. There's a little on Facebook, but you can check out the website, just424.com. There are templates you can download with logos and artwork if you don't feel like that's something you're easy to do. There's a whole kit that you can download that gives you tips on how to get involved and make it super easy, super turnkey. And we're just really trying to raise the vibration, right?
Right. And so people do videos and stuff, and then they
pictures, go live, whatever floats your boat.
Got it.
We want it. Think of it like, the American Heart Association. They have the Go Red for Women Day when everybody wears red, even if you have not had a heart problem. Think of it like that. We're just not asking you to wear a specific color, right?
Right.
So we're just asking you to have fun.
Have fun. That's it.
That's it. Just have fun.
Right. So I love that. And I'm happy to be involved, and I wanted to get you on to talk about it. We're going to publish this before then. I'm going to try to get as many people involved, and that's exciting. And I wanted to say this. You've been talking about this your magazine for a long time. It doesn't exist, and it will be big. We need it. We have to put that in the universe, right? Because I remember the first time I heard you mention it, it's like I know it's something that you want to do and you're thinking about it, but people will love it. I love it. The artistic direction and everything is going to be spot on. And I think this could go bigger than anything so do it. I'm telling you, I'm giving you that universal confirmation. Take it, do it, blow up. You have all my support. I do the music stuff also. And even with Sober's Dope, I know what it feels like to really want to give back and do something great, but you really want to help it get to critical mass so it can have an impact. So anything that I could do, you have my support. And thank you for bringing me in, because I feel the love.
I can't help it. You're dope. I can't help but bring you in.
Thank you. You said something I might want to start. Dope sober people. I might make that the other side of Sober's Dope. Sober's Dope, dope sober people, right? I'm gonna do that. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna do that shirt for 424 and do that and add that to the giveaway also. We're gonna do that, like dope sober people 424. I'm gonna do a shirt.
That's cool.
But anyway, Alysse, I know you have a lot going on. Also, can you tell people briefly about Sober.POP and what your guys are doing on Clubhouse?
Oh, yeah. So we do a couple of virtual events right now with the Sober Curator, since obviously we're still not free to move about the cabin. So the new Clubhouse app, which is currently only available to iPhone users. Sorry, Android people, it's not my fault. But it is a cool app. I like it. It's audio only. So a girl like me likes it because I don't have to worry about my hair or my lipstick or if my ring light is working, right? And I also feel like when you don't have a screen and you aren't busy staring at other people or staring at yourself, it kind of like just makes you even freer to talk your mind. And there's think of it like this big chat room. There's all different rooms you can go in with all kinds of topics. And so we started a club called Sober.POP. We only meet once a week because, we're all busy people, professionals, we have lives, but we like coming together to talk about like-minded things. And so each week the theme changes. So last week was recovery merchandise, and you were on talking about that. And we had some great other guests that came on. The week before that, we were talking about recovery podcasts. This week, we're going to be talking about the booze-free boom and all these alcohol-free brands that are like popping out of the woodwork. That's a whole industry that is like, I've looked at some of the research and analytics around the data of what that industry, and it is just like skyrocketing. And then later this month, we're going to be talking about sober travel, what a trip, like how to travel sober and the tips that you should know. Like, so it's each week it changes, but it's fun. It's all based around around pop culture. So whether we're talking TV shows or movies or celebrities, it's just it's a way for like-minded people to come together and talk about this recovery lifestyle that we're making this a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle, right?
Right.
And so it's just a way to celebrate that in a really easy 1 hour, super chill. You can be folding laundry while you're doing it.
Right.
I know that there's been some girls that have been like in Target when they're listening in.
Right.
So it's fun, and we've got about 250 people in the club right now.
Nice.
And on average, we get about maybe 30 people that will show up, which is small, but it's intimate, and I kind of like it that way.
Right. I do too.
So
I do too. Well, congratulations on all your hard work. Alysse, I want to say this before we go. Your journey, 15 years and counting, May's going to make 15 years. It's been so inspirational listening to you, your process, how you're fighting, everything you're doing, how you dealt with your mental health, right? How courageous you are now in your current situation, and how despite anything that's going on around you, you take the time and find the energy to give back and to bring light and love to people, right? When I see you online, I just see a lot of joy and stuff. And I know sometimes whether you're going through pain or struggling, you don't always show it because you have enough strength to project love and energy to people, and you're giving back in that way. And that's a God trait. And I just want to thank you for being courageous to sharing your story today, and being vulnerable, because that's hard for many of us. And it just means a lot to me. And I wanted to connect with you so long. Thank you for loving me and giving me, and now I'm getting emotional, but thank you for giving me the love and taking the time out. One of the first people that bought some Sober is Dope swag. You show me a lot of love on the Yana app, and shout out to the people over there. And I just want to say, keep up the good work. And in closing, can you let everyone know where they can find you and any parting words or advice you want to give to the recovery community?
Sure. I'm in lots of places, so you can find me at thesobercurator.com. I also have AlysseBryson.com. I'm Alysse in the City on Instagram, and then there's the Sober Curator on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. Now, when I say we're on TikTok, though, like, please no, don't have high expectations going in, because it's just not. I just shake it like a white girl. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know how to do all that stuff, but we're in lots of places. We have a newsletter. I was so honored to be asked to be here, Pop. And I love the message that you're carrying, and I love that we get to carry it together from opposite sides of the country. And my only parting words are, that if you're new to sobriety, or you're even just curious, just start reaching out to people, because there's just so many of us that want to share this thing that we have found. And there are people that will surround you and be there for you and help you on your journey.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's a wrap for our amazing episode with Alysse Bryson, and the founder of the Sober Curator. And I love you all. Alysse, thank you so much for blessing Sober is Dope today. This is a really good episode. It's going to help many people. I know it will. And you're listening to the Sober is Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pop Buchanan. I love you all. I'll catch you on the other side.